Hi friends, a warm welcome to all of you. Good morning. This is Ajay Shankar and you are watching this video over my YouTube channel called Learn Now, where we are learning Angular 6 step by step from beginner to advanced level. Please do subscribe to my channel Learn Now in order to get the notification for the further videos which I'm going to upload next. Well, in past sessions videos we already talked about what is Angular and why it is important. We have seen the architectural diagram in which we have seen how internally Angular works. In why part we have seen why Angular is so important, and now in the current session what we're going to do is we will focus on the how part. First we set up our environment for the Angular and then we'll see our project. Well, this is what we are going to do in this session. Apart from this, we'll see a pure hands-on on Angular project where we'll pick a small topic or a small POC and around which our how part will go, right? So let's get started. So before going through with the hands-on in Angular, let's talk about the prerequisites for Angular. Well, we have three important points here. One is your knowledge part, second is your editor, and third is your server. As far as knowledge is concerned, all you need to know is a simple HTML, CSS and your class concept, which you already know if you are a college student, right? As far as editor is concerned, you do need a software, a tool where you can write your code. Well, for that we already have so many open source editor available on Google, right? You can search across Visual Studio Code, you can see Sublime Text, you can see Atom, you can see Eclipse. You can download any open source editor and you can write your code over there. Well, when it comes to the server, we need some server where we can host our application and see all the server features. Well, if you are an open source developer, in that case Node is the best choice. Let's see all these things in detail. As we already discussed in the previous session that Angular supports TypeScript. The code which we do in Angular, it's purely TypeScript based, and your TypeScript is nothing but your class concept. In your TypeScript what you write is a pure class, and we all know that class is the one which comes from OOPS concept. So that means when you're writing a TypeScript code, you will be getting the leverage of all your inheritance, class, enums, correct, functions and all that. Well, you already know this concept being working in .NET Java, or it's okay even if you work only till C++, because all it matters is you should know a class concept. If you ask me how much amount of JavaScript required before starting with Angular, so my answer would be 0. You don't need to learn or know anything about the JavaScript. The simple reason is Angular works in TypeScript, right? Next point, HTML. Well, if you ask about the UI knowledge, that how much amount of UI knowledge you should know before starting with Angular, so answer is you just need to know a very basic information about HTML and CSS, which everyone knows nowadays, right? Being working in the web application. That's all it requires in terms of UI knowledge. You don't need to be expert in HTML or CSS3. You don't need to know anything about JavaScript in this, right? So it's like everything will be taken care in Angular.js by the TypeScript, and with small amount of information on HTML and CSS will do rest of the work. So no fancy stuff. Next point, as we said, like we need to have a server to host the application locally, and we need an editor to write our code. Well, let's see which editor and which server we need in the next slide. As I mentioned in the previous session that we have so many open source editor like Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, Notepad++, your Atom, Eclipse, which you can check on Google and download it. They're absolutely free, no license required, right? But out of all those, my favorite and my recommendation would be Visual Studio Code. It's a very strong tool. In this one you will get all the intelligence for TypeScript, even JavaScript if you wanted to work on that, right? It supports the intelligence for your HTML as well, CSS as well. You can have all less integration in that. You can have all the debugger tools, all the extensions you can find it over Visual Studio Code. So my recommendation will be Visual Studio Code. So all you have to do is go to the site called code.visualstudio.com, which you can see over the browser, right? And from there you can download the version of Visual Studio Code for Windows, your Mac, your Linux system, right? And once you download, you just run it. There's no special specification how to install it. Just say next, 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 and it will be done and installed on your system. Well, let's see about this server. So server, as I mentioned previously, that we do need some server which will host our application locally. Well, for that, Node.js is the best choice. Guys, Node.js is a very strong tool which is built in JavaScript, and you can write your whole IS server in it. Well, that's a separate discussion, and let's not go into that one. But what I need from Node is the two important things. One, I want Node to behave like a server which will host my application locally. Second thing is, I need Node to give its Node package manager feature where it will install all the required libraries, packages for me in my local project. Well, let's see how we can install Node. So to install Node, the best way is you can go to nodejs.org site, and from there you can see the download link. Well, it gives you the other option to download as well if you belongs to Mac or Linux. Well, as you can see, my system is Windows based, so you just need to click on this link, on this button, and you will see at the bottom leftmost corner it has downloaded the MSI file for me. All I have to do from here is just install this MSI file, and whatever option it gives, you just need to click on next, 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 and then finally you will see Node is installed on your system. Well, once Node is installed on your system, you just need to type Node on the start button, and then you will see a Node command prompt will open. That means a Node is installed on your system. That's all you need to do for the configuration. That's all you need to do for the environment setup. Well, in the next slide, in the next session, what we'll see is how we actually write the code in the Angular. So far we are done with environment setup. We already did the Node.js and Visual Studio installation, right? To install Node.js, we know nodejs.org is a site from where we can download and install Node.js, and for Visual Studio Code, which will help us as an editor, we need to go to Visual Studio Code site and download it from there. Both are open source, both are free. I mean, you can download it, you can use it. The next point in environment setup is our Angular CLI, right? We need to install our Angular CLI in our project. So let's see this last part, environment setup, and then we jump on the project setup, right? So let's see how we can install the Angular CLI. So we'll go to CMD command prompt, and all we need to do is type a command called npm install -g @angular-cli. So this is basically a command from Node which will install Angular CLI framework at our system. See, npm here stands for Node package manager. Since we already installed the Node.js, so now we can make use of the npm commands. So npm, that stands for Node package manager. Then we have install, that is a command. -g is a global switch. You can type global and you can type -g as well, right? So -g is nothing but a global switch. And then finally we are making sure that which framework we are installing. So Angular /CLI. So this will install, this command will install the Angular framework globally. So you enter, and then you will see the process will start. Node will start installing the Angular CLI framework in our computer, right? So CLI stands for command line interface. So it is not a GUI based interface, it's CLI based interface where we have command line. We have commands to interact with the framework. Correct? That is what CLI stands for. So you can see the installation has started. For me, I have already installed Angular CLI framework globally. So for me, it will not be a fresh installation. What rather it will do is, it will update my Angular CLI version. Let's say my Angular CLI version is Angular 5. So it will update to 6. If it is 6, it may update to 7 if 7 is launched by them, right? Because I have not mentioned any particular CLI version. So it is always going to update my CLI version. So you can see the processing is happening. So once this is done, then we see the project setup. Now the project has been created, correct? And we need to check our essential files, like what are the essential files we are having in our project? What are the bare minimum files that we are having in our project? What are the most important files which we have in our project? Let's go through with those files. So in order to check those files, we need to open our project in our editor, which is Visual Studio Code. So let's open Visual Studio Code and check those files. So I open Visual Studio Code and we go to File menu. In File menu, obviously open folder, then search for your folder, correct? So in my system, let's say C drive, training, correct? In that I have Angular 6 demo project. So let's open this one. Okay, so you can see my project has been opened, the project which we have created, Angular 6-demo. The very first essential file in your project is your package.json. Well, before going into the technical definition of package.json, I wanted to throw one example in order to understand what is package.json, why it is so important for the project, and what is its relationship with NPM. Well, when you visit a doctor for a treatment, he will give you some medicines on the prescription list. In order to get those medicines, you don't go to the manufacturer of each and every medicine mentioned on the list. Rather than that, what you do is you go to a chemist or a pharmacist where you will get all the medicine in one shot by handing over the prescription list to that guy. Well, in our case, the prescription list is nothing but your package.json, which will have all the packages that are required for the project. And the chemist or pharmacy guy is nothing but an NPM. That means that your package.json will have all the required packages, as I mentioned before, and NPM is the one which is going to read each and every package one by one, step by step, and install it in your project folder. Well, let's see further more important things that we have in the package.json. So the first essential file you have in your project is package.json. It's a very important file. You can compare this file equivalent to your web.config file in .NET or web.xml file in Java. This file contains all the information about all required modules or packages in your project. It segregates the project among dependencies and dev dependencies, plus it has all the script as well. Well, let's see this package.json in detail. So if I start from dependencies and dev dependencies, so you will see it has mentioned all the packages names. Well, you can see by the name itself, it is defining its meaning that these packages contain the functionality of respective feature. For example, animation. So Angular/animation package or module of Angular will bring animation into picture. If you wanted to write a code for animation, you will be required this Angular/animation module. Similarly, for compiler, for core, for form functionality, for HTTP based functionality, for router functionality, you need all those packages. Well, if you see in the dev dependencies, you will find that a similar kind of packages are there, but obviously they're different from the dev dependencies. In dev dependencies also you will find some packages like build Angular, CLI, common compiler CLI, Angular services, Jasmine, Karma, correct? We have protector, JS Node, JS Lint, TypeScript. So these are also the Angular packages only. But why we have the difference between dev dependencies and dependencies? Well, it's a very simple difference. The difference is the packages which comes under the dev dependencies that you only required at the time of developing the code. For example, TypeScript. You don't need TypeScript at the deployment time, correct? Because your Angular, when your Angular startup boots up, all your TypeScript file will get converted into JavaScript. So you need TypeScript for writing the development code only. So hence you need this TypeScript package till development only. At the same time, you see Karma, Jasmine and other files are also there in dev dependencies. So all these files also you required only till development, and they have no concern, no connection at the time of deployment. That is where our deployment, our dependency packages comes into picture. So dependencies packages are the packages which will help you, or which you will be using at the time of development as well as at the time of deployment. For example, if you have routing single page application, then you need the routing feature, routing functionality, single page functionality at the time of development as well as at the time of deployment. when you deploy your application, yes, you do need your routing mechanism, you do need your single page application. Similar thing, similar definition goes for HTTP and forms. With the forms, it will bring validation, and with HTTP, it will bring asynchronous call. So form validation, form controls, HTTP calls, you need it at the time of development as well as at the time of deployment as well. So that's the main difference between dev dependencies and dependencies. So dependencies, once more time, dependencies only, you require dependency at the time of development as well as deployment, whereas dev dependencies you only required at the time of development only. With dev dependencies, no deployment is required. Let's see the further point. Now the point is why this package.json is so important for us. Well, as I mentioned, all the dev dependencies which are mentioned in package.json is just an entry in the file, but the actual physical packages will be present in the node module folder in our project structure. Well, if you can see my project structure, I don't have any node module folder. Although 99.9% cases when you create a command, when you write a command to create a new project, which is ng new project name, you will get node module folder with it. I also got it once I fired that command, but point is I've deleted that folder, because that is how you are going to get this project. When your solution architect or your team member or your tech lead will upload the project in GitLab or any repository, when you download it, you will get only package.json file, not node module folder. What I'm trying to say is, when you download the project structure from your repository, you will get all the files except your node module folder. Well, to get node module folder in your project is very important, because the actual physical file will present inside the node module folder only. Well, to get the node module folder in your project, all you have to do is you need to fire npm install command. The npm install command, which is node package manager command, npm install command will read the package.json, and whatever packages has been mentioned in the dependencies and dev dependencies are going to be installed inside the node module folder. It is as good as it will download all the packages which you mention in the package.json file. It will download into node module folder. Well, for further important things in package.json, let's see our script property. So scripts property, which is object as of now, you can see it will contain few of the scripts which are essential for the project. For example, you will have ng-serve command, which will basically run the project. Then you have ng-build command that is going to build your project and create a deployment folder, which you can simply copy paste to any of the server and it will run. Likewise you have ng-test command, ng-lint command, ng-e2e command, which has the similar feature like ng-test will fire all the test cases, ng-lint will compile all the types of file and check for the syntax or semantic error, where ng-e2e will do end-to-end processing. Like this, your package.json will be important when we're going to do a deployment. When you going to do the deployment, at that time, this dependency and dev dependencies will again come into picture, and in the deployment folder it will pick all the packages, all the modules from dependencies only. Well, as I already state the difference between dev dependencies and dependencies, so now this point should be very much clear to you. When a deployment project structure will get created, you will not find any dev dependencies in that. All you find all your resource file, HTML, CSS3 and pure JavaScript, which came out of your TS files. Well, after this, let's see what are the next essential file we have for our project. As I mentioned previously, that when you download your project from your repository, you are not going to have node module in that folder. In order to get node module folder in your project, which is very much essential because all the dependencies, all the packages, all the modules will be physically present in the node module folder itself, you need to install the node module folder. In order to get that done, you need to write a command called npm install. Let's fire that command and see is my node module folder is getting created when I fire this command or not. So very first thing that I need to do for that is I need to be inside my project structure or project folder. Well, as you can see, I'm only in my repository, not in my specific folder. So let me first of all go to my project folder, which is Angular 6 demo, and now I can fire the command npm install. As you can see now, the node is reading my package.json file and reading all the dependencies which is mentioned in dependencies and dev dependencies and installing them one by one, step by step in my node module folder. Well, once this whole process will be done, you will see all the packages modules which is mentioned in dependencies and dev dependencies will get installed in node module folder. That means my project is absolutely ready to get started. Well, let's see what I have to do to start my project and to build it in the next slide. As you can see here, all the packages has been installed under my node module folder, which means my application is absolutely ready to start up. Well, before going through with the bootstrapping of the Angular application, that how the Angular application bootstrap, what is the entry point of the application, let me start the application by typing ngserve command in order to show you that what exactly happened when you're done with your development and you wanted to see the result. So let's see the command. So for that I need to pass ngserve command. So now what will happen is ngserve command will read all the TS files and convert into JS. Once the conversion has been done, all the JS file will get bundled up as main.js. Not only that, at the end you will see all the dependencies packages that we mentioned in the dependency section, all will get bundled up by the name of vendor.js. Well, you can see on your screen you have your main.js, which will contain your code, user defined code, which you did in the TS file. One. Second thing is you will see a vendor.js where all the node module files will be bundled up specific to dependencies only, right? You will see styles.js file as well where all the styles also got bundled up. So your server is running, your application is hot. Let's see the output of it. This is how your application is going to look like. This is how your Angular seed project is going to look like. You have not done any programming yet. By default, whatever default code has been pasted, has been there in the seed project will be able to display on the screen by typing ngserve command. Next important file in your project is angular.json. Well, in this file you will mention all the project related settings like where is your build folder, what is the path of your build folder, what will be your prefix for everything, every component, every services what you create, where you will define the path of your style, what is the path of your scripts, what is the path of your asset folder. I mean, whatever is the setting of your project, you are going to mention all in this angular.json file. As of now, as you can see, since this is my seed project, so everything has been set up automatically. But that doesn't mean you cannot go ahead and change it. For example, if you wanted to change the prefix from app to someone else or something else, you can very well do that. For an instance, let's say your company name is XYZ and you want every component to start with XYZ, so you can go to this prefix tag, prefix property, and you can change from app to XYZ. Well, likewise, you have other properties as well in this file like index, main, polyfills, tsconfig, assets, which are basically depicting, which are basically mentioning that what is the path of your file structure. Well, if you change the file structure, you have to change in this file, because when the process start, when ngserve start, when your build process start, it reads this angular.json file to get the exact file path. Well, this is just a short description about this file. In my further videos and session, I will talk about angular.json in detail. Well, that's all we have to do in this file as of now, and let's get started with some other essential file.